Hi, my name is Matthew Belisario. Thanks again for coming by the Belisario Sonic YouTube channel from the heart of the Deep South on the outskirts of Birmingham, Alabama, where we talk about music, we talk about records, I do record reviews, and I've just had the privilege of having great conversations with wonderful musicians on this channel. And today I have a very special guest for you all from Japan, Mamiko Watanabe, who made this spectacular record sitting here next to me. If you're into jazz, you're going to love this album. When I did the review, I said that this is going to be one that goes unnoticed. I'm doing my best to make sure people know about it. This is a very intense album. Mamiko is a very, very talented, very gifted piano player. She's playing with two legends on here, Billy Hart on drums, who's been playing drums for a very long time, and Santi de Bas on bass. This is a fantastic trio record, one that needs to be heard. This is my favorite pick thus far for new jazz records of 2024. This interview, a fun interview, she tells us a little bit about her background, but she also tells us a lot about the record, how the songs were chosen, tells us about improvisation, and really just gives us a bit of insight into the making of this fantastic record. So I bring you this wonderful interview with Mamiko Watanabe. All right, so we have a very special guest with us today, Mamiko Watanabe. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes.
I'm very excited to have you on the channel and talk about your new record, Being Guided by the Light. Before we get started and talk about the record, I just wanted to kind of introduce you so that people that watch the channel know who you are. And I find it fascinating that you started playing when you were very young, around 4 years old.
Yes.
And you're from Fukuoka, Japan. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then you started playing piano around the age of 4. And then you started also composing at a very young age. One of your main inspirations is Toshiko Akiyoshi, and who is an American pianist, composer, arranger, and band leader. In 1999, you received a scholarship to attend the Berklee College of Music, where you received several awards for jazz composition and piano. You're also a semifinalist at the Montreux Jazz Festival solo piano competitions in 2002 and 2003. And in 2003, you received the Downbeat Student Award in the Jazz Soloist category. And then you moved to New York City, which it seems a lot of jazz musicians, that's kind of where they go to really get into jazz. And then you played at you've been playing at all the big clubs, the Blue Note, Dizzy's Club at the Lincoln Center, the Kennedy Center, and many others. You've also toured Europe and Japan, and you've performed with a lot of legends, including those on this record, but you've played with Joe Lovano and Kevin Mahogany, Bobby McFerrin, and others. And your first record came out in 2005, and since you've done 4 more, and this is your 5th one, which came out in February of this year. And so thank you so much for coming on the channel and talking to me, Mamiko, and telling us about this record. But I just wanted to start off and ask you about how you learned to play, and were your parents musicians, and how did you learn to play at such a young age?
Yes. I learned basic musical knowledge and performance at the Yamaha Music School when I was 4 years old. And I started composing at age of 7 within Yamaha Music School. And I had opportunity to compose and perform. It was around the time that jazz became more familiar to me. And I also got to know Toshiko Akiyoshi around that time.
And so you started off in classical music first? When you started playing as a young child, when you were young?
It was more everything. I learned about everything and composing. But later, I had the opportunity to get instruction in classical performance techniques.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Then after that, I moved to Boston to study jazz at Berklee College of Music.
And
Then,
that's yeah, and that's where you got more into jazz to actually learn the techniques and everything.
yes, at Berkeley, yes. Then, after graduating, I decided to move to New York to work on my skills, so playing with different groups in New York. So I got a lot of great experiences.
Playing live, is that was that I know a lot of jazz musicians talk about the importance of playing live in the club with different people. Was that very important in being able to play jazz, to learn the jazz language?
Yes, yes, it's a real experience playing with established musicians. I learned a lot from them. Toshiko, no, I was listening to her recording, big
Okay.
band recording when I was a child, and that's how I got to know about Toshiko.
Okay, because I'm not very familiar with her, so that's why I was very curious. I've not really listened to any of her music, so I was just curious on how. So she does a lot of jazz, or is she more classical, or both?
She does. She's a jazz legend. Yes.
Okay. And then, so for your practice right now, I know that's different as you progress, but what is your practice routine now when you play? Do you to to get better or to keep your chops up? Do you play still a lot of classical, or do you play just jazz?
Uh, I do warm ups using scales and arpeggios. Then I practice some classical music pieces by Bach or Chopin. Then I
And
also, you know, practice jazz standards.
jazz standards?
Hmm.
And the who are your favorite jazz pianists aside from Toshiko? Who are some of the, I guess, the legends that you've listened to? Some people have compared your playing somewhat to McCoy Tyner, or
Yes, McCoy Tyner, Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock, Thelonious Monk, Michel Petrucciani.
oh yes, okay.
Yes. Wow, there are
And
so many.
are there any favorite records that you like to listen to? Recordings or certain albums that you listen to, or
I have a lot of favorite recordings, so it's hard for me to pick. Um, One of my favorite recordings is uh, it's called Tracks by Oscar Peterson.
okay.
Tracks. It's a soul piano album, and I used to transcribe that record.
Transcribe, and that do you think that's a very important part of becoming a good jazz musician, is to transcribe solos and play different pieces so that you can incorporate that into your own playing?
I do so. I do think so. Yes.
And so
Because
do you still do that?
I used to write down everything. I try to write down everything, but now I just listen over and over. Yes.
And then you just try to incorporate the different things into your own style, because you have a very unique style. You're very talented. It's not only your skill in how you play. I mean, you can play very fast, but the notes that you choose are very interesting. In that, when I've listened to this album now many times, there's always something new to hear when I listen to these, and I'm interested to know a little bit about how you chose the songs on the record, because I noticed that two of the songs are your own songs, which are fantastic, Being Guided by the Light and Atomic Space. And then you picked a Tad Dameron song, you picked the John Hicks song, McCoy Tyner. So how did you choose which songs you wanted to put on the record?
Those songs were introduced to me by Santi de Bas, the bass player. He introduced me those songs. So it was new to me.
Okay. And then your own songs, how did you compose those? Can you tell us a little bit about like going into the studio and how you presented your songs to Santi and to Billy?
We could rehearse before the recording. So I brought music sheet and we just played.
So there was no rehearsal?
No, there was a rehearsal, but we just played, and I didn't have things to say because it was so natural.
So
but we had to play few times. But Billy Hart had great ideas, and I want him to be free. So we just played a few times.
And so how many times did you record each song? And did you just record the songs live and then pick the best recording? Is that what you did?
Yes, mostly 2 or 3 tracks. And we chose the best one.
The best one. They're incredible. And then playing with these two, because Billy Hart has been playing for a very long time. And Santi de Bas, how did you pick them, or how did you get paired up with them to do the record?
So JoJo Records suggested me playing with these legends on the record.
Okay. And that's it says it's produced by Simon Bellelti. Is that how it's? Okay. And so he produced the record, and he put you all together to make this record.
Yes.
And then when in writing, so like for example, Atomic Space, which is a wonderful song with a lot of different rhythms and different changes and things like that. How difficult is that? Is a lot of that improvised, or do you follow just the lead sheets that are in the studio and then everybody kind of does what they want free? Is that more of that, or is it just kind of a combination? I always find it very interesting.
Mostly was free. Beginning of the song, we start from free. We just play, listen to each other. Then there was a melody that I wrote, so that is written. Then we improvise.
And can you tell us a little bit about improvisation coming from other types of music, whether it's pop music or even classical? There's not as much improvisation as, for example, there is in jazz. But can you tell us like a little bit about improvisation and how you are able to communicate while you're playing back and forth between? You have 3 people here, and they're you can hear the drums are fantastic here, the bass playing. But can you just talk a little bit about your idea of improvisation for those out there that might not be that familiar with that?
So playing with 3 people, we have to listen to each other. We really have to focus on what other people are doing. And sometimes I start playing and somebody responds, somebody just follow me. Mostly I direct, but sometimes I follow somebody's ideas. It's an interaction between 3 people.
And so it's there's room. What I like about the trio and is you're also involved in some other projects. I think I read that you did some big band type of things or big, larger. So how do you feel about playing in a trio versus playing in a bigger orchestra, a bigger setting?
So it's less people, so it's more free space, and we orchestrate like big band sometimes.
Do you like playing better with less people or more people, or it doesn't matter to you?
To be honest, less people, less people is good.
It's so well. Can you tell us? So how do you like for the two songs that are on this that you wrote? You wrote "Being Guided by the Light," which is like 6.5 minutes long, and then you wrote "Atomic Space," which is like over 8 minutes. Do you have an idea as to how long the songs are going to be, or does that just kind of happen on the spot?
It just happened on the spot, so we didn't decide how long we should play. It just happened. It was long sometimes.
And do you have extra tracks that you recorded from this record that was not put on the record, like extra things that you can use later, or was everything that you recorded on here?
There was a solo piano track. It's not on the vinyl, but it was for the streaming. The song is called "Music Game," so I play by myself.
And so those are all everything that you recorded at the session.
Yes.
And what kind of a little bit about the studio when you went in to record this? Was it just where was the studio at? Was it in New York or was it someplace else?
I was at Sound on Sound Studios in New Jersey.
Okay.
It was a great studios.
And how long did it take you to record everything? Is it all one day or 2 days or how many?
2 days.
2 days?
Mm-hmm.
And then were you involved in listening to the mixing of the final recording and all that, or did you just leave that to the recording engineers and everything?
Not all the time, but I was there for mixing too.
Because it sounds very good. This is a very, very audiophile recording. It sounds very good. I listened to a lot of records, and this sounds very analog, sounds very warm, and there's a lot of depth to it. Mm-hmm. And so it was produced very well and recorded very well. And of course, the way you all played is fantastic. What would you recommend to people that are learning piano? Because your technique and how you play, how many hours did you practice when you were first starting to learn to play? Did you play several hours a day, 8 hours a day, or was it a lot?
I think mostly 3 hours.
Each day?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you find, what pieces of music did you find made you, or helped grow your playing? Like, was there any particular pieces that you found that you played a lot that really helped you develop your technique?
Actually, I like to practice scales.
Okay.
So I think scales help me.
And all those, I find it interesting. I play a little piano. I'm not very good. I play mostly guitar. But in playing piano, for me, it's very difficult because you separate both of your hands. You can be doing something completely different with your left hand and your right hand. And some of the things you come up with on this record are very interesting to listen to. And so just by you practicing the scales, and how did you develop separating, or was that something that came natural to you just by playing the piano, that you were able to just do two different things on each hand?
So I used to compose the song, and I was trying to write challenging thing for me. So I really have to practice uh, to be able to play well with both hands together. So I think that helped.
And then, so composing yourself, that really helped you also develop. Because I
And
think a lot of people that I know, they learn to read music and then they pretty much read the music off the page. I know several people that play piano that read the music off the page, but they don't go beyond that. And so, when you learned to read music, was that something that you would work on your sight reading and things like that as well?
yes, no, I really don't remember.
So you probably
So,
learned that very young.
but somehow I was good at sight reading. I think. I don't remember. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm sure you, as you learned young, you probably learned to sight read very young. And so
Yes.
it probably has become like second nature to you, like
Hmm.
reading off a page of anything. So a little bit more about the record. The two songs you wrote, did you already have an idea of what the songs would be named when you wrote them, or did you write the music and then find a name that fit to the song, or how did that work?
I wrote music first, then I named after.
Okay.
So after I composed, I had image, so I named after.
And how did you? You've done 5 records so far. How do you view this one compared to the others that you've done? Is this one a lot different? The way you composed and the way you put the songs together, did you find it a much different experience than the other ones?
That's a different experience because there was a producer from Georgia Records. So this was my first time to work with the producer. So
Okay, that's interesting. So he helped kind of orchestrate how you were going to do everything, or kind of
yes,
give you a vision.
he told me uh, two of my originals, few jazz standards, one song by Santi de Bas, and one song from Japanese traditional folk song. So
And
he
so, go ahead. And which one was that one?
that was uh, my grandfather's club.
Okay, right. And that's an old folk song that you almost like I think I read you said it was almost like a children's song, but then you kind of put your own spin on it and turn it into a
Yes,
jazz.
yes.
Well, that's pretty cool. How do you make these standards? For example, the Tad Dameron, the scene is clean. How do you go about making it? You listen to the original a couple of times, and then okay, now I'm going to do it my own way. How do you make it your own?
I didn't try anything. I just played.
So it comes very natural to you. It sounds like you
Yes,
just.
I just played. I didn't
Yeah.
think I wanna do this way or that way. I just
So
played.
that's pretty neat because you can feel when you listen to the record. I like the way it feels because it doesn't feel like everything is scripted out. It feels like it's very free, and when you're playing, there's some very intense playing on it, and there's some very beautiful playing on it, and there's a lot of dynamics where it gets quiet and gets louder, and I find it also very interesting how Billy Hart on the drums, because he's an amazing drummer when you hear him play on this record, and Santi's bass playing, how that you can just almost instinctually make those songs your own and play them the way you're playing them. So I think for those people that maybe aren't that familiar with jazz or familiar with that improvisation, it seems almost a mystery that 3 people can sit down and have a lead sheet of music and then just boom, you play it 3 times and then you probably play it different every time too, right? So
Actually, for my grandfather's clock, I had a three different version of track. So it was hard for me to pick which one I like because I like every version, but it was so different.
and so you just kind of listened to all of them and then just made your own kind of. You picked the one you liked and then improvised a little bit off of that, made it your own, played it your own way.
Yes, yes.
And then I guess a couple more questions about what upcoming projects do you have? Are you doing more recordings or are you playing live there? Do you play a lot in the clubs in New York City still?
Yes, I work with different groups. I'm playing piano for Santi de Bas orchestra Bembe, and we've been playing in New York. And I've been writing new songs for the next album, and I'm going to keep writing.
Great.
Yes.
And then you'll probably do another one with JoJo Records as well? Or you don't know yet? Or
I don't know yet, but I'd love to make a new album.
I always find it interesting about how jazz players can kind of go up and play with different people. And someone can call a standard, okay, we're going to play this standard or whatever. And you probably know a lot of the standards, right? Or at least you know some.
I try, yes.
In order to... So is that difficult to if you play with somebody new?
Sometimes yes, but I try to adjust. I try to listen carefully. So I'm trying to have fun every time.
Yes, and that comes through on the record to me. I like your two songs a lot. The whole record is fantastic. Nigeria is very good. That's which song on the record did you find the most difficult? Any of them or more challenging?
Every song was challenging, but Atomic Space.
That sounds like it would be difficult.
Because it was free, so it was really challenging for me.
Well, that definitely sounds like probably one of the most difficult ones on the album because of all the different tempo changes and different things going on. But it's so engaging to listen to. So, are you playing anywhere that you want to let people know that'll be coming up of where you'll be playing in New York City here soon?
I'm going to perform at Scala's Jazz Club in Boston.
Oh, in Boston, okay.
With Santi de Bas Orchestra Bembe. And I'm going to play with my trio at Meslo Jazz Club in New York on January 2nd. It's next year.
Okay. Awesome. And so in between then, are you going to be composing and doing other things?
And playing, yes, playing.
Playing. Great. Okay. Well, thank you, Mamiko, for joining me. I really appreciate you coming on and telling us about the record a little bit. And I'm looking forward to more of your music. And you're an incredible player. It's, again, this record here is just wonderful. It's one of my favorite jazz records so far this year, and I've listened to it probably more than most of the other new releases because it's so fresh and so engaging, and there's so many things going on, and just with three players, it's wonderful. So,
thank you so much.
Thank you.